War machines, how weapons change the fate of wars. Hardware, power, and the brutal logic of innovation. Every era believes it has reached the peak of military power, and every era is proven wrong. From clanking steel monsters crawling across muddy fields to silent aircraft that barely show up on radar, war machines have reshaped how battles are fought and how quickly they're won or lost. Let's break it down. Old tanks versus modern tanks. From steel beasts to digital fortresses. When tanks first appeared during World War I, they looked terrifying. Huge, slow, unreliable. But fear was the point. Early tanks like the British Mark I were barely functional. Engines overheated. Tracks broke. Crews passed out from fumes inside. But they did one revolutionary thing. They crossed trenches. That alone changed warfare. By World War II, tanks became faster, deadlier, and more specialized. German panzer divisions didn't just support infantry, they led invasions. Blitzkrieg worked because tanks weren't used as mobile bunkers anymore. They became shock weapons. Then came legends like the Tiger and Panther tanks. Thick armor, massive guns. On paper, unstoppable. In reality, over-engineered nightmares. Too heavy, too complex, broke down constantly. Fuel-hungry in a war where fuel was scarce. Fast forward to modern tanks like the M1 Abrams or Leopard 2. These aren't just armored vehicles. They're rolling computer systems, thermal imaging, stabilized cannons, digital targeting, composite armor. A modern tank can spot, aim, and fire accurately while moving at high speed, something World War II crews could only dream of. But here's the twist. Modern tanks are more vulnerable than ever. Cheap anti-tank missiles, drones, and top attack weapons have leveled the playing field. $1 million tank can be destroyed by a weapon that costs a fraction of that. What this really means is simple. Tanks are no longer kings. They're part of a system. Without air cover, infantry, and electronic warfare, they die fast. World War II bombers were loud, massive, and impossible to ignore. B-17 flying fortresses filled the sky, hundreds at a time. Their strategy was blunt force on overwhelmed defenses in flattened cities or factories. Accuracy was terrible. Casualties were horrific. Entire crews vanished in seconds. But bomber fleets had one advantage: volume. If enough planes went up, some would get through. Now compare that to a modern stealth aircraft. One plane, one mission, one target. Aircraft like the F-117, B-2, or F-35 don't rely on numbers. They rely on absence. They're designed to not be seen. Radar cross-sections, smaller than birds, precision-guided weapons, real-time battlefield data. Instead of destroying cities, they decapitate command centers. Instead of terror through noise, they deliver terror through silence. And that silence changes politics. When a nation knows it can be struck anywhere, anytime, without warning, it behaves differently. That fear doesn't come from armies. It comes from technology. Guns that rewrote battlefield rules. Some weapons don't just improve warfare, they rewrite it. The Gatling gun, before machine guns. The battlefield followed a grim kind of order. Armies moved in lines, shoulder to shoulder, drilled to perfection. Soldiers didn't charge because it was smart. They charged because that was how war was fought. Officers relied on discipline, timing, and courage. Men fired in coordinated volleys, then reloaded in full view of the enemy. Battles unfolded slowly, almost ritualistically, with both sides understanding the rules and the risks. Those rules collapsed the moment rapid-fire weapons entered the field. The Gatling gun didn't just increase the number of bullets fired, it shattered the entire logic of battlefield movement. For the first time, a small crew could unleash a continuous storm of fire that no formation could survive. Lines of infantry, once a symbol of strength and unity, became perfect targets. What had worked for centuries suddenly became a death sentence. In seconds, one fixed position could cut down hundreds of advancing soldiers, not because the enemy was braver or better trained, but because technology had tipped the balance completely. Firepower now overwhelmed manpower. Defense gained a brutal advantage, and offense paid the price in blood. Charging infantry, once seen as heroic, turned into mass suicide. No amount of courage could outrun sustained fire. No formation could absorb that level of destruction. Commanders were forced to confront an ugly truth. The battlefield no longer rewarded bold movement. It punished it. This shift changed everything. Armies stopped advancing in the open. They dug in. They adapted. If movement meant death, then survival meant protection. Trenches spread across the landscape, carving scars into the earth. Soldiers hid not out of fear, but necessity. The ground itself became armor. Trench warfare wasn't born from strategy. It was born from desperation. When you couldn't outrun bullets, you went underground. When standing tall meant instant death, you stayed low. War slowed to a crawl, locked into brutal stalemates where inches of land cost thousands of lives. The Gatling gun didn't just change how fast soldiers could die, it changed how wars were fought, how armies moved, and how long conflicts lasted. It marked the moment when technology fully overpowered tradition, and the battlefield was never the same again. The AK-47 simple, cheap, nearly indestructible. The AK-47 didn't just arm armies, it armed revolutions. It works in mud, sand, snow, and neglect. It doesn't care about maintenance. That made it perfect for guerrilla warfare. The result? Power shifted. Small groups could challenge superpowers. Insurgencies could last decades. Conflicts became harder to end, messier, and more political. The AK didn't win wars quickly. It made wars endless. Drones might be the most disruptive weapon since gunpowder. No pilot, no risk, persistent surveillance, precision strikes. At first, drones were just eyes in the sky. Then they became executioners. What makes drones terrifying isn't just what they kill, it's how they change decision-making. When there's no body coming home in a flag-draped coffin, leaders become more willing to use force. War becomes easier to start and harder to morally control. Weapons that scared nations more than armies. Some machines don't need to fire a shot to reshape the world. Nuclear weapons. No battlefield presence, no front line. Yet they dominate global politics. Nukes turned war into a math problem. Not bravery or numbers. Mutual destruction. Entire strategies were built around never using them. Deterrence became the weapon. And for decades, the scariest machines on Earth just waited. Aircraft carriers. A floating air base that can park itself off your coastline. Carriers project power without invasion. Their presence alone sends a message. We can reach you. That's why nations build them, even when they're insanely expensive and vulnerable. Fear is part of the design. Design flaws, failures, and overhyped machines. Not every war machine lives up to the legend. Some fail spectacularly. The Maginot Line. Not a weapon, but a system. France poured massive resources into it. Fortifications, guns, defenses. Germany didn't attack it. They went around it. Perfectly designed for the last war, useless for the next. The Tiger tank myth feared? Yes. Effective? Sometimes. But Tigers were rare, expensive, and unreliable. For every enemy tank they destroyed, logistics destroyed another Tiger. Meanwhile, simpler tanks built in massive numbers often mattered more. Overhyped future tech history is full of wonder weapons that promised victory. Railguns, laser defenses, super tanks. Most never leave prototypes. Wars aren't won by perfect machines. They're won by machines that actually show up, work, and can be replaced. Reliability beats brilliance every time. The real lesson of war machines. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Weapons don't just change how wars are fought, they change who can fight. They decide whether wars are fast or slow, contained or endless, visible or invisible. And the most dangerous machines aren't always the loudest or biggest. They're the ones that quietly shift the balance. Before anyone realizes the rules have changed, history isn't just written by victor. It's forged into steel, circuitry, and firepower.